So it's the mixture of solemnity, of the divine and the banal is a feature of African creativity.
The pen may beat a path to plowshares, pen beat plowshares into swords, in words from plowshare and the sword. And pen enshrine, and pen unmask the lies of vain mythologies, pen enthrone the moldy claims of power, urge contested spaces as divinely given. Pen prove mighty ear of swords, glory tongue of gory deeds, dress rape in fame, plunder in time-honored robes of epic deeds. The pen may dip in inkwell and emerging drip with blood. Precious stones adorn their tongues of rote, of cant, of sterile incantation. Show me the waterbeds they lie upon, pull the plug, and puzzle why the flow is darkened red and thick and clotted, eternally in swarm as locusts, as lies and flies, consorts drawn to dark orgies of commemorating pens. Long is the line of great seductions, leer of ease within our checkered tribe, from griot of voice to plume and the compact processor. Some we have come to know. They served and were served in turn. Some believed, and others cashed their souls for make-believe. But both are immunized against the testament of eyes and ears, the stench and guilt of power, an anomie of reddening rain, of plagues of locusts, deaths of firstborns, 7 lean years, and yet again the 8th and sequent round of death and dearth. A pledge not earned or given is not in mortals to redeem. But God decreed the end shall multiply the means. A seasoned waiter, the pen inscribes, we also serve.
¿Cuáles son las pequeñas piedras que habría que ponerse bajo la lengua, como Demóstenes, tema de uno de sus poemas, para buscar un canto auténtico en la poesía que no excluya lo político, sin que se quede en lo puramente ideológico?
The thing about Demosthenes is that it lends itself to a number of interpretations, political, and even rhetoric as an art, and of course the responsibilities of the artist in society, which is, for me, is the main theme. That if what we must do is burn our tongues in the process of articulating the truth, then we have no choice but to do that. And that's why I consider the poem Demosthenes as a kind of obverse face. Yes, the other kind of pens for hire.
¿Cómo es el trabajo suyo en el Parlamento Internacional de Escritores?
Yes, a lot of attention is paid to the written word. Academics earn their living by writing doctoral theses, attending conferences on aspects of literature, structuralism, post-structuralism, deconstructionism, postmodernism, and many others whose meanings, are so loose that they can mean anything. But very little attention is paid to the actual producers of this material. What happens to them? What are the problems that they encounter in the process of providing this material for others to dissect or simply to enjoy. Because poetry also is a consumerist commodity. I pick up a poem, the following moment I've even forgotten who wrote it, but I've read it, and it has enlarged my humanity. And I may carry a phrase of it will linger in my head for a long time afterwards. And some of these works are produced by writers under the most harrowing conditions. And so it is out of these considerations that I very readily join hands with other international writers to create a structure of a network of cities of asylum for persecuted and endangered writers. In other words, in protecting the writer, we protect also the word. So we have this network now all over the world, constantly expanding, depending on funds. We have places where the governments have actually promised, but we have not been able to execute those, to bring the residencies into performance. In the network, we have persecuted writers from China, from the former Soviet Union, from Zimbabwe. We had them from the Balkans. At one time, during the hostilities between the Serbs and the Muslim Croats, we actually had a writer each from both sides occupying the same residence, and they produced a journal, a magazine on their own. So even without intending to, we sometimes even contribute to the process of community healing. But the real essence of our function is to provide practical means for the survival of writers for a period. And sometimes it even includes their families. We've had to even go as far as taking action to assist the escape of those writers from their beleaguered countries.
Blue diaphane, tobacco smoke, serpentine on wet film and wood glaze, mutes chrome, reeds velvet drapes, dims the cave of mirrors. Ghost fingers comb seaweed hair, stroke aquamarine veins of marooned mariners, captives of Circe's sultry notes. The barman dispenses igneous potions, somnambulist, the band plays on. Cocktail mixer, silvery fish, dances for limpet clients. Applause is steeped in lassitude, tangled in webs of lovers' whispers, an artful eyelash of the androgynous. The hovering notes caress the night, mellowed deep indigo. Still they play. Departures linger. Absences do not deplete the tavern. They hang over the haze as exhalations from receded shores. Soon, night repossesses the silence, but till dawn, the notes hold sway, smoky epiphanies, possessive of the hours. This music's plaint forgives, redeems the deafness of the world. Night turns homewards, sheathed in notes of solace, pleats the broken silence of the heart.
¿Qué representa la poesía para el porvenir humano en este momento?
Let me answer that question with a direct experience. When we visited Ramallah and held a kind of exchange, literary and musical exchange in the ancient theater, Ramallah Theater, in which people read, let's say, from their own languages, in their own languages, sometimes even without translation. Just the musicality of the reading. There was an atmosphere in that packed theater in which people were hanging from ceiling, dripped from windows, all the steps, the passages were clogged with sheer humanity. It is another of those magical nights. And I think it was possible to actually weigh the sense of transformation which the people in that theater had, which they experienced that day. And of course, everything which we've heard about that night afterwards testified to what we felt. Of course, there was some music as well, but largely it is a night of poetry, because Mahmoud Darwish is essentially a poet, and most of us who went were poets. So it's very difficult to articulate exactly how poetry affects human beings. That there is an effect is evident from the fact that people attend poetry readings again and again and experience some kind of internal transformation of themselves. I know what happens to me personally when I pick up a book, maybe even just an anthology, a magazine, and I'm flipping through and my eye is caught by a particular phrasing, and then I read the poem. You know, just a casual encounter. It could be simply on the literary pages of a regular journal. You know, we're not even talking about the actual volume of a book of your favorite poems. And there are lines which remain in the mind, which surface from time to time in moments of a kind of negative feeling or a sense of pessimism and so on, lines which just occur. And it's not simply because of what the lines say, not simply because of what the poet says, but the way it said it, the way it has expressed even the most ordinary sentiment. That is what poetry is about. It's not simply what poetry says, but the capture, on a different level of reality, a different level of existence, of what we are accustomed to seeing every day. So even if it's not possible to psychoanalyze, if you like, poetry, I think its power to transform humanity should not be underestimated.